Hello everyone, it's Vanessa here and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be on my experience as a nursing student in the ICU. I put a poll up on Instagram and it got really positive feedback in terms of whether you guys wanted, whether my followers wanted me to create a video on my experience. So to start off, I'm a level 4 or year 4 nursing student. I am in the RPN to BSCN program at my school, and that's technically a 3-year program. We start with the transition year, and then the second year we are with the year 3 mainstream level 3 students. So to be able to actually have an atypical placement, you have to apply. So an atypical placement is a specialty placement for RNs. They consist of being in the ICUs, PACUs, ORs, DRs, L&D, RNAO, and so on and so forth. So there's a certain criteria that needs to be met to be able to have a placement in one of these areas. First, we have to fill out an application form. Our previous tutor from level 3 has to fill out a referee form, and then our grades have to be at a certain level as well, and then depending on how many preceptors they have, you may or may not get a placement in one of these areas. And I was very fortunate enough to have had the opportunity to have my placement in the ICU and CICU because the nurses in this particular hospital worked on both. So before I begin, I guess I should say why I wanted to choose the ICU. Nothing else was really appealing to me. Like, I do really like the idea of critical care, but I know that the ER, I don't think I would like so much just because it is chaotic and you don't know what's going to be coming through those doors. So the ICU is also chaotic, but it's more organized chaos. So in preparation for my placement, I decided to check or research some of the common ICU medications. We had an orientation for a clinical semester where our teacher also gave us a skills checklist, so we know where we fall on certain skills, and it's great to reflect on even after during the ending of the semester. So I was fortunate enough to have 2 really great preceptors, and I think that's something that really worries us as nursing students, is whether our preceptors are good preceptors. Will they help facilitate our learning? Will they be too overbearing? Will they actually let us do things and learn and enhance our skills? And I was fortunate enough to have a couple of really good preceptors who did all of those things. So in this type of setting, it's usually, depending on how critical the client is and the staffing of the nursing, it can either be a 1-to-1 nurse-to-client ratio or 1-to-2 nurse-to-client ratio. That being that the more critical the person is, you're leaning towards a more 1-to-1. But if there's like not enough staffing, if you have a really critical person, you might have like another not so critical person. So this was definitely a great placement where you can enhance your skills that you've learned throughout your other school years. Definitely had to show assessment, medication administration like IVs and drips. I got to do some insulin drips. I got to hang amiodarone, which is an antiarrhythmic, PO medications, PEG medications through the PEG tube, and enteral feeds, TPN. There were NGs, OGs, and subcutaneous medications are just like some of the ones that I've given on a regular basis. Another thing that I got used to during this placement that I wasn't really comfortable with before is like reading the Cardex, which is like, I feel like a really basic thing, but I really have a better understanding of what's in the Cardex and where I am supposed to look for certain things like a diet, labs or lab work to be done for whenever. So definitely I learned or obtained a lot of new skills, experiencing a lot of new things. A lot of the people in this particular area have mechanical ventilation, so definitely care of a sedated person is something new that was new to me at the time. I got to also participate in daily rounds, which are basically you have different people from different members of the team. So you have like your intensivist, which is the ICU physician, a resident physician, pharmacy, RT, can't remember what else, but also the nurses who will meet during the day and talk about basically everything on that particular client. They'll go through labs, they'll go through medications, we'll do our head-to-toe assessment, and all that good stuff. And this interaction helps with clarifying information, make sure everyone's on the same page. If we have any concerns, we relay those concerns. Unless they're like really emergent, then we would have waited until daily rounds to do that. I also had a lot of experience with arterial lines, PICC lines, any central lines basically. Arterial lines are very specific to the ICU, so you won't see them basically anywhere else. And what they do is our lines are kind of like inserted by the physician and hooked up to a cardiac monitor or one of the monitors, and they measure blood pressure continuously, blood pressure and heart rate continuously, which is great because if you have someone who, most likely you will have someone who needs Q1 hour vitals, it's great to see where the person is in terms of their blood pressure and heart rate throughout your entire shift. I mean, you may also have someone who has Q1 age vitals as well that doesn't have an arterial line. So what we would do is we have the blood pressure cuff on and we keep it on, and we set the monitor to go off every 1 hour. This monitor also can show respirations as well, and I think SpO2, I can't remember now, but yeah, it shows a lot of, it does, SpO2. They're just really handy equipment in the ICU. I also had the opportunity to do neuro vitals, which is quite interesting and different. It's not hard or anything. To kind of get an idea of where the brain function is, you do your neuro vitals. And this can also help with traumas and stuff like that, or like head traumas and stuff like that, just to see where the person is at. But it was another great thing to kind of have in the back of my head and have experienced as well. Every semester in clinical you have to do a learning plan, and I did mine on 4 different cardiac arrhythmias. There were VTAP, VFib, AFib, and A flutter. And I thought this was fitting because it's the ICU setting. We use cardiac monitors. We have to print out our rhythm strips every so often, and I have the opportunity as well to shadow the telemetry nurse. I've gotten better at cardiac rhythm interpretation, just the basic ones obviously. I also had the opportunity to insert a subcutaneous butterfly, which was great. I administered blood and TPN, of course with my preceptor or the nurse watching me do that. And then I had the opportunity to care for someone with chest tubes, which I've done before, but it's been a really long time. It's not something I do pretty often. And then also like people with drains, which I've gotten more comfortable with. A lot of the population in this particular hospital, they're adult, they do a lot of cancer, GI, sepsis. I think those are the main ones. So we're definitely not going to see any burn cases. Any traumas are usually supposed to go to a different hospital that specializes in that. But those are the main ones that we see on the unit. Also, as a nursing student, one of the greatest things is the ability to oversee procedures, because once you're a working nurse, you're not going to have the time to oversee procedures. It's not really an opportunity that it's sprung upon you just because now you're working, you don't have time to do all that stuff. So I've gotten to see central line and arterial line insertions, intubation, extubation, and a Blakemore procedure I've also gotten to see. Blakemore procedure is used to help kind of stop GI or esophagus bleeding. It was quite interesting from what I heard from the charge nurse that, I mean, she's been there for a while, but she's only seen 3, and she's been there for like more than 10 years. So it's not a procedure they do often. Also, a great thing to do before you actually go into any type of clinical practicum is to create learning objectives and goals, and that is what I did. So some of my learning objectives that I created were indications and criteria for ICU admission and discharge, obtaining and solidifying advanced skills like catheterization, which I've gotten to do I think a couple of times, once or twice there. Airway management with indications for intubation and ventilation, ECG, lead placement, interpretation, which the ECGs got to do a couple of times. Therapeutic communication when caring for clients and families in the critical care setting, just like medical directives. I don't know, they call it something else, medical directives for used in the ICU. They call it something else, I can't remember, but like where I work in a nursing home setting, we have medical directives, like if someone doesn't have a bowel movement within the past 3 days, you give this medication. Interprofessional team members in the ICU and their roles, which is a huge one because there's so many of them. And I also, one thing that I got to sit in on was an ethics meeting, which was also one of my learning objectives, ethical and legal issues relevant to critical ill clients. They had discussion in the meeting. There was ethics, there was the attending nurse, you know, a couple of students, me and another student sat in, and then social work, the physician, and there was someone else that I don't remember her position. But yeah, it was a great opportunity to kind of sit in and just like have an idea of what the ethical issues can be in this type of setting. Another important thing that everyone should, or it's helpful to create prior to commencing your clinical practicum for every semester is goals specific to that unit. So just reading off of my laptop, I have here that basically my primary goal is to develop soft and hard skills necessary to function within critical care as a nursing student. And underneath that, that would include to become more autonomous, proficient, efficient, and confident in client care, to provide at least a satisfactory level of client care. Obviously, in this type of setting, nursing students are typically not high functioning on their own. Especially me, someone who comes from a nursing home type of setting. I don't have acute care experience aside from clinicals. So I'm kind of like a fish out of water. I don't know a lot of the things. I don't, like, it's very overwhelming at first, for sure. Like, even just the documentation, it can be extremely overwhelming and can take a really long time because there's so many different things you have to document on. Also, I wanted to improve my leadership skills, complete thorough assessments and documentation, and then also improve my interpretation of lab values, which, I mean, I still need to work on that, but yeah. Another thing that I found was really handy that they used in the ICU was this critical care bedsheet worksheet, which is basically like a lifesaver. So it has all the information that you need to know about your client and that you need to remember and like document on. It's a great overview and like thorough. It can be thorough, depending on how you use it. Way of viewing the client. So like here it says you can, this is just all of your client information. So like the room number, patient name, diagnosis, code status, allergies. A lot of people just put initials where the patient name is supposed to go. Here you have the different timings of the day, and that can be used for any sort of medications you need to give, and the timings you put them by the timings, and then you have your head to toe assessments. Some people may not need as many head to toe assessments depending on how critical they are. And then you have your vital signs, you have your in and outs, you have your titration if you have any drips to titrate. In this box here you have your rounds, so any information you want to relay or concerns you need to bring up during rounds is important, would go over here. And then intravenous and feeds, so any IV fluids that are being administered, any feeds, enteral feeds, feeds by OG, NG, well, yeah, and then any IV sites. And then on the other side, so this is basically your review of system on paper. So you have your CNS, cardiovascular, respiratory, GI, GU, integumentary, and others. So like lab values or lab tests that need to be done or have been done, and the results, and then social issues can go down there. And then we head over here to your lab values. So there's 3 different slots that you can put information down on. This comes in handy to see how someone may progress. And then down here, I didn't really use this much. It's just basically mobility. So you have step 1, which is a partial chair. Step 2 is a full chair. Step 3 is dangle with assistance. Step 4, stand at the bedside, and so on and so forth. But I really did enjoy using this this worksheet. It came in really handy. I'm the type of person who likes to see things visually, and having the visual aid of seeing like when my medications are due, what medications are actually due at what time, actually helps me more than you know, writing down the time that something's due and not knowing what exactly I'm giving. It just helps with preventing med errors too. So I highly encourage, if you have the opportunity and you have the slightest little bit of curiosity, and it doesn't even have to be ICU, it can be any type of atypical placement, I would highly suggest attempting to get a placement in that area, because you never know, you might end up loving it. I personally never felt more connected with the nursing profession, aside from this placement, and I've been a nurse for the past 3 years. I just really liked it's a really challenging setting. You have to really critically think. I do enjoy the low client to nurse ratio, which is great. But it can be really busy depending on how critical your client is. And just the environment in itself, I mean, this environment may be different than another ICU setting at a different hospital, but this ICU, everyone really worked together. They were very cognizant of who had the heavier clients, and they ensured that they would help out, try and at least help out those clients, especially because like they were short a lot of the times when it comes to staffing, which wasn't the best, especially for this kind of setting, but I mean, it happens. There's a nursing shortage that is going around too, of people calling sick. But aside from all of that, definitely was the greatest placement I've ever had, and a lot of that has to do with my preceptors, of course. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment box or comment down below. And I'll try my very best to answer them. If you have any suggestions for my next video even, and hopefully it doesn't take too long to make that video and I'm not too busy, you can leave that also in the comment section down below. I hope you guys found this video beneficial. I know there's a lot of nursing students out there, and the request to have this video out was quite high, so I hope this was helpful in some way, shape, or form. So until next time, I'll see you in my next video, and I hope you guys have a great day, night, afternoon, whatever. Okay, bye.
I ain't got no time for no games. Tell me what you like, but it's never gonna change. So you do what you wanna do.